Coach, what's the locker room like on Friday? You guys have been working so hard all season, finally get the result that you wanted. What's the vibe with the guys when
Obviously,
they reach
they're
their goal?
ecstatic, super happy. They played hard for each other. It was one of those things where we did everything right to earn the win, and we did it the hard way. And just to see the guys after the locker room is just a big breath of fresh air, and they're excited about it, and which they should. We came in there. I don't think anybody expected us to win a game against a very good opponent, but we had a game plan, and the guys got it up, and we had limited bodies, and but everybody chipped in to what they needed to do in order to earn that victory. So just real happy for our guys, and then to come back the second night and almost do it all over again. I think all of us thought we should have won, but it became a one-shot game, and they scored on their opportunity, and we didn't. And that's just the game of hockey. But you can't take away from how hard our guys played and did everything they could to win that game and potentially get the sweep on the weekend.
Yeah, Galt's a guy you got in the portal, played in the conference last year, and immediately he comes alternate captain and everything. What did he show this weekend with the 3 goals he had? And
Well, he scores goals,
yeah,
and you look at him, very, very quiet player in the ice. If you're just a normal person watching him up in the stands, you probably wouldn't notice him until he scores a goal. And that's what we recruited him for. He's just got that knack around the net, real quick release, real good deception. Obviously, lethal on the power play when we can set him up for the one timer. He got the one on Saturday night. So I think he was the third leading goal scorer in the CCHA last year. We were fortunate enough to get him, and he's doing what we asked him to do. That's his expectations, is for him to score goals. And obviously, he was a big part of the reason why we had a good weekend.
there's a long way to go in the conference season, but you guys are only 4 points behind the 8 spot, and would, which would get you in the tournament at the end of the year and give you a chance. Do you pay attention to any of that? And now that you guys maybe have a little bit positive momentum going.
Yeah, yes and no. I think a lot of people got to realize it's a process to get there. You're not going to have overnight success with kind of rebuilding. It is a rebuild, and we started from scratch last year. That takes time, and with this portal, the landscape of college hockey, it's hard to build. It takes longer to build, and like programs like U of Mass, they started out this way. Maine started out this way. St. Thomas started out this way, and it takes time. So for us, the process is important. Our habits are important on a daily basis. And obviously, getting healthy is a big thing for us, and the wins will come. And you saw our habits have been good. We've been in a lot of games. We've just been a goal short or a save short to win some of these games to close them out. But I think the blueprint is how we finished out the game on Friday night and what we needed to do one more thing on Saturday night. That was either get the goal that we needed to win it or get the save that we needed, one of the two. So it's a process to get better. Obviously, our goal is to make the playoffs, but we don't want to look too far ahead. Our goal, obviously, is one game at a time. I know that's a cliche. We got a very good speed team, probably one of the fastest teams in the CCHA in St. Thomas. They're really good off the rush and transition. So we got to do what we got to do to take away that part of their game. And our focus is here for Friday night. It's exam week, so our guys got to concentrate on their academic piece. But when they're here for practice, 2 hours a day, it prepares them for the game on Friday night.
St. Thomas split with Lake Superior State, which means kind of within reason, 5 through 8, kind of a scramble at the moment.
Yep. And it's a good way of putting it. It is a scramble. So you got to try to obviously, I say, you got to go through the process to get the results. But when you're going through the process, you got to find a way to get points every weekend to stay in it, and that's our goal. But if we play to our capability and our best, that gives us the best chance of getting points against St. Thomas. And Lake Superior was able to do it last weekend. So, but it's going to be tough. Every game's tough. We've got to do everything that we did last weekend and more to come out with some points this weekend.
Like, oh, what was good about that? And penalty kill, just special teams on this past weekend.
Yeah, going into the weekend, any weekend, you got to be solid on your special teams and goaltending, and we were able to do that on both nights. I thought Graham's did a real good job, and then our power play got the 5-on-3 goal. That was an important goal, and Bowling Green, I think they're at 25%. I think they're one of the leading power play units in our league and in the nation. I think they went 0 for 8 on the weekend. So that was a big part of our success, and we need that to be consistent in order to take away some points this coming weekend.
Let's start with those three. What went really
Yeah.
well for them, and why you think they received that honor today? And
Yeah, well, yeah, we had three GLIAC Athlete of the Weeks from our competitions this weekend, and they all were very deserving. First of all, our Kalina and Toby, our two divers, have just been like top of the conference all year, and they went in and put in another good showing. Super solid, and I can't say enough about our diving coach. Has just been really great. First time all our men qualified for finals on both boards, so that was exciting. And it's just really good things happening, especially on the diving end. For Mateo getting the male swimmer of the week, I mean, he just swam lights out, and it was exciting to watch because he and I both know that there are little things that can make him even faster. And right now I think he's top 8 in all 3 of those events in the country. He's ranked 3rd in the 200 IM right now, which is a really good time. He broke one of our school records that has been there since 2016. So yeah, it was good for that to go off the board. Although our alumni Ryan Leonard is probably a little bit bummed, but excited he broke it. Yeah, and he just looks really strong. So I'm excited for good things to come out of that. And then I think it was really exciting to see one of our senior sprinters, Will Account, won. I think this is the first time he won an event at Calvin, individual event. He won the 50 free with his second best time ever, 1982, which should get him into nationals as well. So there's really good things out of the weekend for sure.
yeah, you mentioned little things with
Yeah.
Mateo. What are some of those things that
Yeah, like I think his 400 IM was really pretty, but I think and he knows this too. I think we can be just a little bit more aggressive in some areas, and so I think that'll definitely be better. He got a little bit tired at the end of his 200 fly, but that was also like the last session of 3 full days, and so when he's feeling, getting a little bit more rest, that one should go better as well.
you guys are building on towards
Yeah.
GLIACs and NCAA's? You have about 2 months to do that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, not very much.
And what's that build like, and how do you approach it day in, day out when you get to the pool?
Yeah. So right now it's we had a little bit of rest going into this, and now it's kind of just getting back at it. So we only have one more training block before conference. So it's kind of like getting their mentality. Like I know we're focusing on finals this week, but I try to tell them when you're at the pool, let's be at the pool. And we have to get back at it. We don't have any time to rest or really take a break because our conference starts February 6th. So they have about 5 more weeks of hard training, and then we start resting and getting going, which is not very much. Yeah.
It's earlier than in the past, at least it seems to me. Do you look
It's
at the
earlier.
rankings very much at this?
Do I what?
Do you look at the rankings very much at this point of the year, or does it really not matter?
I don't usually look at rankings until after this meet because this is about the time when everybody's done a suited and rested meet. And so it gives you close to maybe what's going to happen towards the end. There'll always be people in there. I think one of the things that's nice to know is like Mateo's got a pretty solid spot and Will has pretty solid spot. So a little bit of pressure's off because they're going, and we have 2 men's relays that qualified, so they'll go to national. So a little bit of that pressure is off. But I don't look until now, and then it makes me kind of think, okay, where else do we need to focus on? Where else do we need to get to? Is somebody on the bubble? And but you can't control what anybody else is going to do in the country, so all we can do is try to make ourselves better every day.
Well, your overall impressions getting into GOVC duels and everything. Just how do you think things went?
Yeah, I think. Well, first and foremost, I was thinking about this over the travel home this weekend and a little bit yesterday, just preparing notes for today. Is one thing I want to talk to the team about is like not losing perspective on being first, right? First GVLC competition, first year sanctioned with NCAA to have our first NCAA championships this year is not losing perspective on that of like our place in history and how cool that story is going to be someday to tell their kids about when they're 40, 50 years old, right? That they were a part of that. So, and I think part of that is like nothing's ever perfect when it first starts, right? I think there's always, we're coaches, right? We want to nitpick a little bit about, the structure of the competition or the timing of the competition, but overall, like kind of that anytime, anywhere mentality, but also don't lose sight of being grateful. And, but to the competition side, like I thought it was great this weekend. We had, nice to always get your first dual meet wins of the season as a team against Davenport and Upper Iowa, and I think this is the beauty of our layout with the GBLC is like we're really fortunate to be in competition regularly with people that we want to keep that type of company, and to see McKendree is a high level program with a lot of firepower in their lineup, and for our athletes, especially our four that are ranked in the top 10 in the country, to get that exposure and get their hands on those opponents at this point in the season is incredible. And I thought we'd like to win more of those matches, right? Like Abby Miles losing 4-3 to number 2 in the country. We'd like that to be a 4-3 win, but it's December, so it's good data, at this point for development. So great weekend. Great weekend.
How do you view those rankings as a team? You guys are 12th, and you mentioned your top 10 wrestlers. Are those important to you, and are there goals set? We want to get you into the top 10 or things like that?
Of course. There's two sides, right? There is and we talk about this a lot as a program, like we're not fans, we're competitors. And I think those numbers next to our name are, really good for fan interest. They're great for social media, things like that. But, I didn't reach out to anyone and ask them to do us a favor, to put us in that realm. And I think they should be good points of like self-confidence for athletes that haven't been in that position before. But we don't start with any extra points, because we're ranked and that opponent isn't, or, whichever that is. I think they're good points of validation and where we're at in the process, right? I think of two individuals like Emma Heslin and Abby Miles that started the year unranked, and now they're, in the top 6. And those are good points of validation for them. But they don't matter until March, right? Where you finish is where you finish, and you have to earn it between now and then, and rent's due tomorrow, so we got work to do.
Yeah. Michaela Keene, I feel like she was really just leading you guys this weekend. Did
Yeah.
She really kind of set a bar for the rest of the team, and how did she do that?
Yeah, she's a team player, I'll tell you that, right? Like she's naturally, there's no secret about it, she's naturally a 180, and we have some really strong competition in there. We felt like with her style and her work ethic and where she's having some success in there and reading the field, that we felt like she would be really successful at 207. And she's took that jump up there. She hasn't lost a match. I think she's 6-0 at 207 right now. So excited to keep her rolling on that side. But, she has a lot of what I think our strongest attributes are right now as a program is very coachable, very trusting. Her effort is great. Her preparation's great. Her attitude and training every day is great. And that's translating into her competition. But I just give her, that's not an easy thing to do, is to start the year with an impression that, hey, I'm going to be at one weight class, I'm going to contend there, to where then a couple competitions in, coach comes and says, hey, what do you think about this? And she's handled it in stride. And if she's been anxious about it, you haven't been able to see that. And those are really positive things. So she is absolutely leading on that side with others, but Michaela's been doing a phenomenal job for sure.
How tough are those conversations you have when you want someone to move a weight up or a weight down?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I know each case is different, but are those harder than it seems? I would think they would be.
It just, relationships drive those conversations, right? Like my hope is that, those aren't off the cuff, right? Like usually there's small conversations. There's always transparency in what we're, talking about with the athletes, and both individually as a team. And sometimes they can be challenging, right? Like when you want to change course and those sort of things. But we're not quick to make decisions. Like we don't go to them and say like, hey, this is the decision. Period. I want them to have some input on their journey, right? Like I'm an individual first, line up second, type coach, and it's their goals and their career, and I want them to feel comfortable with those decisions. They hopefully trust us as a staff to guide them in the right direction, for them individually. And but there's a lot of sweat equity in building relationship, right? And it takes time. We've said it. It's kind of been the theme with this being my first year with them is I don't want blind trust, right? Like I want them to trust and see evidence of us doing the right thing for them at the right times. Um, and I think that's been present there with those conversations that we've had. And Michaela changing weight, Alyssa Calderon was an All-American at 138 and really pushed to move her up to 145. And whether it be redshirt status with some true freshmen in the program right now, or even redshirt status with some upperclassmen right now that we've maybe planned on redshirting this year. That those are some conversations that are going on right now. But daily transparency and just being open to hearing their perspective too, and that their stance and their opinion has to weigh heavily in what that final decision looks like. And but yeah, we're not authoritative leaders, I guess is what I'm saying, right? Like there's partnership.
Because I'm sure some coaches do it, hopefully not very many, but they may do that from one week to the next, put them up a weight, down a weight,
Sure.
and that can be confusing.
And there's some safeguards in that within the sport governance, right? There's some weight descent plans that need to be followed. So it's if you're doing the best thing for the athlete, it's really challenging to go this weekend to that next weekend and have that constant change that you could have at maybe the high school level or those sort of things. But there's some safeguards in there where there's got to be some foresight, which is healthy for the athlete and it's healthy for our dialogue, right? Like we're not making fast decisions, jerking them this way and that way. It's, hey, 3-4 weeks down the road, what do you think about this game plan? And kind of build towards putting that in motion.
2-0 in the conference, right where you want to be to start the GLIAC season. Just what went right for the girls at Parkside and Roseville?
We got 2 wins. That's what went right, but there wasn't a lot of other stuff. Our shooting percentage was not great. There's a lot of things we need to clean up and a lot of things we need to fix. But the one thing is our team stays consistent and they battle for 40 minutes, and you need to do that in our conference. And Roosevelt was 1 of 10 in the first half, and then we're 10 of 20 from 3 in the second half, and just everything they were throwing up was going in, and we just kind of stayed calm and collective, and ended up squeaking out with a win on both days, which was nice.
How do you the 2 conference games in December? Do you like them? How do you approach them when you know that they're going to be there and jumping back into non-conference? How does it get you out of rhythm or change anything? And how do you approach it?
It's a 2 more games, and for us, I wish we would play more in December, and so we would have a lighter schedule in January and February. It doesn't. A lot of the other conferences in our region do that, where they play 4 games before the holidays. So I wish we would play 2 more. To be honest with you, I wish we'd play 4. But going back and forth again, I just tell them like each day that we play, that game is the most important game of the year. And so going into Parkside, that was the biggest game. Going into Roosevelt, that's the biggest game. And right now, Northwood is the biggest game. You focus on the one game that we have next, and you go from there.
What does it say about you guys that you can win a game in the 50s and then win a game in the 80s?
I wish a lot more would be in the 80s than the 50s, but yeah, no, I mean, it's again, our defense came through at the end, and just the battle in our senior leadership has been phenomenal. They didn't get rattled. Sarah stepped up big time. JC stepped up big time. Alyssa Hill did a great job, and that's a big thing. And CJ doesn't get a ton in the stat lines, but her leadership is really big, and even Reed got in there and played some defense for us. So I mean, we're really leaning on our seniors this year, and they are stepping up to the challenge and doing what they need to do for us to get a win.
That has to bode well for you guys going forward too, and knowing that you're definitely competing for a conference title. Just what do you think? Sarah, JC, the girls that have been around CJ as well. What do you think they have brought to this season that's allowed you guys to start 10-1?
I think a lot of it is, okay, we're seniors. Like, we're going to give it all we got right now because this is our season and this is what they, they want to leave their legacy here. They want it to be really special. And that's what they were talking about. Even when we're on the road, they're like, coach, what if this, what if that happens? And I'm like, hey, like, we're just focusing one game at a time is what we're focused on. But they want to make sure that what they are doing here is they're leaving their mark, right? And so JC's had a fantastic career. Sarah has too. They all bring something totally different, but at the same time, they work together. They care about each other. Our whole team gets along really, really well, and I think that's a big part of it. Is just whoever does it that day, everybody's super happy and super excited for it. And we've had multiple people step up and do things, but it's because of our seniors taking care of our younger people and kind of showing them the way, and it's the right way, which is huge.
I think Sarah was your leading scorer in both of these games. What does the offense look like when she really gets going and starts to heat up?
She can shoot and she can light the scoreboard up fast. But it was just the smart cuts that she was making, the smart reads, how they were defending. She was making the right cuts, and her teammates were finding her, right? Like, you got to get the assist, or usually you get an assist when you get a shot. And it was down the stretch there at Roosevelt. It was literally like our seniors were out there. I trusted them, and they were just making the right plays. And I had somebody call me and be like, "Did you really draw this up for a three? Are you really doing that when you guys are down?" And I was like, it was the right read that they were comfortable and confident to make the play, and I got to support that. And so it was really fun down the stretch. It's really fun to see our team battle through those tough times and those hard times because we were down in the last 2 minutes of that game, and I would like to say I was nervous, but the biggest thing was I trusted our team and our seniors, and Alyssa Hill got a fast break layup that CJ hit her with, and that was awesome.
It's 11 days, I think, between
Mhm.
games. I know it's finals week.
Yeah.
That's probably certainly a luxury that they can focus a little bit more on academics this week. Just what are these 10 days like? You guys, get ready for Northwood and having a little bit of time to rest.
The biggest thing is, yeah, resting up our bodies. It's been a long haul here at the beginning of the year and going on our first road trip. We didn't get back till late, Saturday night. So giving them a couple days here to really focus on their academics. And just, again, it's them coming into the gym and they're doing it on their own, right? And so we have people coming in and working out. We have people getting up extra shots. We have people, asking questions, doing all that. But it's really them to improve themselves. And then we'll get back to it here at the later part of the week. We'll really kind of go after it Thursday, Friday. Saturday is our volunteer day, so we got a ton of stuff going on volunteering on Saturday, and then really cracking into Northwood Sunday, Monday, Tuesday before we play them on Wednesday, and really get our lockdown. Make sure we get everything where we want it. It wasn't the greatest against Parkside. It wasn't greatest against Roosevelt. There's a lot of things we need to improve on, which we talked about afterwards. And we're going to be ready to go them for Northwood coming in. The other part of it, though, is Northwood played 2 games last week. They play 2 games this week, and then they come to us. So we got some time to watch them a little bit more with what they're doing and how they do things.
Going on what Kevin just said, though, I mean, really, it's 1 game in 24 days.
Mhm.
So how do you prepare for that, not playing anybody when you've been going through the grind for the first month of the season?
Again, it's focusing on us and taking it one day at a time. Right now, it's that academics is the most important thing this week, and then we'll get a couple shots up and we'll get back into the flow of things. But it's just kind of the way that the schedule is. Last year, our schedule was a week off here, a week off there. It was kind of crazy too. So, one thing is our kids are adapting and changing and are used to kind of how you just go with it and you just figure out, okay, today's game day. We're going to focus on this being the most important game of the year and go at it and attack it that way.
How have your young players adapted to the college life and the grind of women's basketball? And now, as you said, you get this time off, but how they have adapted to the grind and how do they feel?
I think they're still figuring it out. I'm not gonna lie, but our sophomores have been outstanding, kind of showing them the way with what they need to do, helping them out with finals, and making sure that they get situated with everything. I know our freshmen are kind of freaking out a little bit. Our new people are freaking out because this is their first finals week at Northern, so they're still making some adjustments and getting acclimated with what they needed to do. But they got a lot of good people in that locker room that's really showing them how to do things and what to do, and that's really just leaning on each other is a big thing, not just in basketball, but academics and life. And this ride is something that they're never going to forget together. And that's the biggest thing. And that's what we preach.
How how good are the Timberwolves this year?
They're pretty good. Right now, currently, their only losses to Grand Valley. They have some phenomenal players that can put up a lot of points fast. A couple of them that you really got to key in on. They just beat Ashland at Ashland, which is not easy to do. And again, their only losses to Grand Valley, and that says something. We got to be ready to go. And I think we got some time to prepare, which is nice.
How nice is it that this game's at Bandiment and not down at Northwood this year?
I think a lot of our players enjoy that. I think a lot of the families enjoy that. But again, if it was on the road, we'd attack it the same way. But having another home game before we get home for the holidays, I think is fun too.
Coach, your overall impressions of a 2-0 start in conference play?
Yeah, it's always interesting because you play it so early and nobody's fully clicking. But then when it's later in the year, it feels like a distant memory. But it also can feel like the most important games in some ways, especially starting on the road against, definitely one of the contenders in the league, and then, a Roosevelt team that's always tough to play at their gym. I think, hopefully that 2-0 goes a long way at the end of the year towards accomplishing some of our goals.
When you have a team like Parkside, that's gonna be probably a top 3, top 4 team, and you get that win, when they lose 2 of them this weekend to Upper Peninsula teams, how much does that set them back, and how much does that help you as you talk about later in the year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can look at it so many different ways. But I think the biggest thing early is you just got to control what you can control. And for us, that was going 2-0 on the weekend. And I agree that Parkside team has a ton of talent. I think they very well could be in the hunt. I think you notice at the end of years, sometimes you look back at early season and you're like, that team's so different now than they were then. Now they're the best team in the league, or they weren't, but early on they weren't. And I'm not saying that'll happen to them, but it certainly could. And hopefully for us, we at least now will never be able to look back and say, well, we didn't do what we needed to the first weekend. So that's a pretty big box checked. A lot of the times we view the seasons in chunks, and that was kind of a standalone 2-game chunk that we said that was win at all cost weekend. Like other times you're trying to get better, but that was just whatever we need to do to win. We need to win those games, and so getting through them and finding ways in both of them definitely is the start we were hoping for. And overall, it's the start we were hoping for. I mean, we played a really tough schedule, and to be where we're at, we feel pretty good about it.
We've talked about in the pregame show Dylan's dunk from a year ago where he sent the student section home, and then he had probably the most remarkable dunks I'd ever seen in a game against the same team in the same gym. Talk about Dylan and his jumping ability and I guess jumping out of Roosevelt 2 years in a row.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I don't even that one I've seen obviously in practice. You see more reps and the defense doesn't go as hard in practice, so you see some kind of crazier things in practice sometimes. That's the second best one I've ever seen. The more I thought about it, so there was in the Barry, and we don't have film of it. I wish we did, and if we had film of it his sophomore year, we probably wouldn't have released it because obvious reasons. But his sophomore year, he had one where he shot a 3-pointer and he missed it, and he must have known he missed it, and he ran in and he tip dunked it over someone, his own missed 3-point shot. I've seen 2 human beings in the world do that, Wemby and Dylan. And that's the best one. This was probably the second best one I've seen. I mean, it was like he was levitating, and it's fun to have him on your team, and it's more fun when like he doesn't care about that stuff at all. He cares about it in the moment because he wants to help us win, and I think it's fun for him. Like he enjoys it from a basketball sense, but the attention afterwards, if anything, he wishes that could go to someone else. And I think it makes you as a coach and someone that obviously cares about him a great deal. It makes you cheer for him even more, knowing that he's wired that way.
I think we buried the lead here. Cal Klesman,
Yeah,
50 points on the weekend. What allowed him to have the 2 games that he did, especially against Parkside with 30?
Yeah, he's always shot in spurts a little bit, and I think he's just had such a fascinating journey. You add in his brother played at Wisconsin, but that isn't even the part that's interesting. What's interesting to me is he was a no-brainer D1 recruit, like for sure, and then tore his ACL in a really bad time to tear your ACL, and then ends up committing to Green Bay. They have a coaching change, so he doesn't feel comfortable with the new staff coming off ACL. They reach out to us, ends up here. His senior year, I think he was still hurt. He came in, didn't want to tell anyone, but had to get some stuff in his knee redone because it hadn't healed perfectly. And then last year, he's on pace to be a key guy for us. Hurts himself against Michigan State. Me and his dad, I'm pacing around the dome. Are we going to redshirt him again? Because we could have, because the first one could have been medical. And then, we thought about it, but it's like, well, who knows how many years, he's not one of those want to play in college for 11 years anyway. So we're like, we'll just maybe play him. We weren't going to play him last year until the Roosevelt game because they zoned. We're down 30 at half against Tech. I literally see his dad sitting at the front row of the bleachers walking into halftime. I stopped. I said, hey, do you mind if I play in the second half? Because we're not going to win anyway. So we throw him out there. He did some good things right away. And I thought he was maybe the biggest change in our team last year that made us go from a kind of, to me, a fake good team to an actual good team that could go win the league and make the NCAA tournament. And then this year, he establishes himself as a starter. And I think in that starter role, it's a little different than that bench role because you got to be consistent game in and game out. You can't just kind of fire up shots. And I don't want him to be someone we pull if he's cold. I want him to be someone that we play either way. When he's hot, he's helping us because he's scoring. When he's not, he's helping us because he's a threat. And you can see him getting better and better at those things. And then it was almost like once he decided he was going to focus on the other stuff, that's when he got crazy hot and puts together, one of the better weekends, not just the scoring, but the assists. And I thought he played really good defense this weekend. So overall, just a really complete weekend for him. But I think the part that makes it cool is just all those other things that he's had to overcome. And the whole time, his attitude and his desire to just be a great teammate and be where your feet are and be here. So many kids who had that D1 stuff and then had that happen to them would focus on the negative and that they were victims. And not one time have I ever felt that out of him. And so again, when you have kids like that, it makes them really easy to cheer for and root for. And when good things happen to them, you're even a little bit happier knowing kind of the backstory of some of the stuff they've gone through.
How much easier is it for your basketball team? And looking at Fleischman, for example, played a lot of minutes this weekend. Charlie played a lot of minutes this weekend. Polite played a lot of minutes this weekend. When you have guys like that are so physically in shape that don't have to come out of the game, how much does that help you that they're always in the rhythm of the game and they don't get taken out?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, right? Like we probably are going to play 10 on Thursday, and when those injuries happen, your first reaction is, oh no, we're kind of screwed, and then the second reaction is, oh, that means more minutes and more time for some of these other guys. And what is the balance there? I don't know. I don't think any of us have it figured out, but I do think there's something to be said for having an ability to know that if you're playing well, you're going to get to play a ton of minutes, and we're not subbing for the sake of subbing. One thing we do that's very different than everyone else is we pre-script our rotations. So if you watch our games, we very rarely will sub not during a media timeout. So our guys know that they have the 4-minute chunk to play, and they're not looking over their shoulder in that 4 minutes. I'd text our guys right before I came down here what the rotation is going to look like for Thursday. So they already know for the first 60 minutes of the game when they're going to get subbed in, when they're going to get subbed out, who they're going to play with. And I think there's a lot of freedom in that. You miss a shot, you turn it over. Don't look at me because I'm not looking at you. You're going to play your 4 and you're going to come out. You hit 4 threes in a row, you're still coming out. We'll just adjust that in the second half to have our best players on the floor more in the end of the first half. And I think that's been one of our team's biggest strengths. And one of the reasons we've been able to be so consistent is that consistency within rotations.
When we were supposed to take on Concordia 2 weeks ago, we kind of had the injury bug. And now it feels like a lot of people are coming back and ready to get those minutes. How much does it mean to you to play the games this week during finals week compared to maybe it was 2 weeks ago during Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I mean, we get Bennett and Ross a more run now. So instead of them having a 4-game run going to Christmas, we had a 5-game run. And going to Duluth, I think our team needed that rest in hindsight. We had enough stuff going on. So, yeah, I mean, I feel
I feel like we got fortunate in that regard. And, I like a lot of things. I think we'll always try to find the positive out of whatever the situation is. But in this case, I think there's a lot of positives within there. Does the 5 games in 9 or 10 days scare me a little bit, especially adding in a travel to Puerto Rico in there? Absolutely. That's the negative. But I think there's an awful lot of positives to be had in there. Maybe another one of those reasons we're going to expand the rotation a little bit more.
Guys, talk to us about Concordia now. It's been 2 weeks since we were supposed to play them. What can we expect out of Concordia on Thursday?
Yeah, their center started at Kansas State, his career there, and we don't have any guys that Kansas State wanted, so you'll notice pretty quickly that he looks and plays a little bit differently than even most of the GLIAC guys. He's a special talent that I think just had like 40-some in their last game, and then their starting point guard started here and played for us as a redshirt freshman, which obviously every kid wants to do more and stuff like that, but he was in the rotation as a redshirt freshman. Pretty good player. Being in, all of our guys who've played for us have been pretty good, especially at that young age. And so they have 2 guys that are special talents, and then a lot of the right role guys around them. I think they're different than a lot of the Division threes that we typically play in that way, and that their high level talent is not very Division three-esque. So it should present kind of a unique challenge with that 2-headed monster. I mean, there's games where those guys score like, it seems like all their points. I mean, it's 2 guys, and then everyone else is shooting open shots of some variety around them.